Hi, I'm Michelle, 33, female. And let me tell you a bit about my journey. About 8 years ago, I hopped on a plane and left Congo to escape the war that was going on at the time. Don't get me wrong, I love my home country, but I couldn't see myself surviving another day in that place. I always remembered what my parents told me before they passed away. They would always say that I needed to grab every opportunity to succeed in this life, so I did just that and made my way to the States. On top of fleeing my country with barely enough money other than what was needed for my ticket, I had just found out I was pregnant. My man was off fighting in the war, and he had passed away before I could tell him the news. It broke my heart. Honestly, his death was the catalyst for me finally deciding to pack my bags and move, because Congo was just full of heartbreak at the time. And if I stayed a second longer, I was afraid I'd lose my mind. There I was, pregnant and on my last leg, stepping into the land of opportunity. It wasn't easy. But by some miracle, or maybe just a bit of luck, I made a way for myself. I started a little business selling traditional African waist beads and other African-themed jewelry and throwing in some hair braiding on the side. People loved my work, saying I was really talented. And when they found out I was from the motherland, they seemed to trust my services and my products even more, noting them as something genuine and original. And that fueled my motivation. Soon enough, I had my own shop, and things were looking up. Meanwhile, Dean was growing into this smart and funny kid, always brightening my toughest days. He reminded me of his father, strong yet always smiling. My life was going great, and I wouldn't have it any other way. You know, it's a good feeling when you see your hard work paying off. I had a community that appreciated what I did and that kept me going. Well, things were sailing smoothly with my little shop until one day a family came into my shop. The lady, who I learned later on was Marie, asked me to help her find the best looking jewelry because she wanted to welcome her Gambian pen pal who was coming to visit. Of course, I got to working, advertising all sorts of things for them. They loved it. They had never seen this type of African jewelry before, and all of their jaws were on the floor when they learned that I handmade each and every single one of them. There was one member of the family who had been eyeing me up and down since they got in, and it was getting on my nerves, but I had to remain professional because I had a job to do. He clearly took a liking to me, and we struck up a conversation. He started laying it on thick, making it pretty obvious that he was flirting with me. Even when his mom, Marie, was telling him to leave me alone, he kept going, like we were teens in high school. Despite my clear signals about being a single mom with no plans of diving into a relationship anytime soon, this man persisted. It also didn't help that this man's name turned out to be Dean as well. Imagine that. I mean, it was a pretty common name. I had chosen that name for my baby boy because I remember seeing a handsome actor in the hospital room when I was giving birth. I wanted to give Dean his father's name, but I was scared of how my son was going to navigate this very westernized world with such a traditional name. So Dean was chosen, except someone made an error on his birth certificate, hence the double N in Dean's name, but I didn't mind it. I quite liked it. When I explained this story to Dean and his family, they were astounded. Marie said that we had to at least become friends because it wasn't every day that they met another Dean. I thought that was quite odd because the name seemed common enough to me, but hey, who was I to judge? These people ended up staying in my shop after closing hours, but I low-key didn't mind. We all just seemed to click. Marie was the sweetest. Janie, Dean's sister, was so nice and cool, and Dean was gassing me up, so it was a very good time. I had made my first proper friends in this strange land, and it had taken 3 years to do so. I was very happy. Even after Marie, Janie, and Dean left, Dean had promised that he'd make more of an appearance so that he could peruse, as he put it, but we both knew what he wanted deep down. He started visiting the shop almost every day, buying jewelry under some excuse or the other, for a friend or for a sister's friend or for a friend's sister. He said it all. I didn't mind at all because business was booming with all his purchases. And just when I thought he'd given up, he'd come back to my store, flirting with me, buying some things and then leaving. Then, one day, he met Dean when the babysitter cancelled on me last minute. The way he interacted with my son showed me a different side of him, a caring and loving side. He wasn't just being the crazy flirt he always was. He was soft, and he seemed to be genuinely interested in interacting with my son. It melted my heart, and I started seeing Dean in a better light. I started thinking to myself, would it be so bad to fall in love again? So I decided to give Dean a chance after several months of him visiting the shop and asking me out. He almost didn't know what to do with himself when I said yes. We started dating, and he turned out to be a sweet and caring partner, and I was slowly falling in love. Dean, my son, even started warming up to him and would even call him Dada sometimes. Time flew, and before Dean hit his 6th birthday, Dean proposed to me. Life was taking an unexpected but not unwelcome turn, and I was here for the ride. Our wedding day was a dream come true. You need to understand, as someone who was literally fighting for her life every other day back in Congo, that having such a beautiful and lavish wedding almost felt surreal. I couldn't stop crying. I was so happy. Everything was going smoothly, and we were all having a blast. Marie, Dean, and most importantly, Dean, my little ring bearer, were all over the moon with happiness. I felt like I was floating on cloud 9, unstoppable and overjoyed. Throughout the festivities, I chatted a lot with Jenny, Dean's sister. She appeared genuinely happy for us, and her maid of honor speech was very heartwarming. She expressed her wishes for nothing but the best for Dean and me. It was touching, and I felt blessed to have such supportive people around me. So imagine my surprise when I received a very interesting message from her on my wedding night. Jenny sent me a view once message with some seriously nasty content. I had to read it repeatedly, questioning if my eyes were deceiving me. But no, there it was. A shady text about how much she hated the idea of me being with her brother. I was utterly shocked and hurt. Babe, what's going on? Nothing. Don't worry about it. You look upset, and that's the last thing I want you to be, especially on your wedding night. Now drop the act. Tell me what's going on. Well, I don't know how to say this, but your sister said some pretty nasty things to me just now. What? What things? Let me see. You can't see it. She sent it as a view once message. Well, what did she say? She said the idea of us together makes her sick. She said a lot, babe. A lot of hurtful things. Are you for real right now? Why would she say those things? She loves you. Didn't you hear her speech? Damn it, I almost broke down crying. I knew you wouldn't believe me. I'm not saying I don't believe you. It's a lot to take in. I mean, I've never known my sister as someone to say that type of crap, you know. Okay, then why don't I call her and put her on speaker? I'll tell her I'm alone, and I'll ask her to repeat what she was saying. Okay, fine. So I dialed Jenny's number, and she answered. I didn't even have to do much to prove that she was just a wolf in sheep's clothing. Hell, what do you want? Shouldn't you be on your honeymoon? I am. Where's Dean? He's showering. Listen, Jenny, earlier in the night I got a text from you. It was quite concerning. I just wanted to ask about it. Are you dense or something? You can't read? I want to hear it coming out of your mouth. You clearly had a lot to type out. I was just wondering if you had anything else to get off your chest. You're just as pathetic as you look. You know what I said. I don't want to see you two together. It makes me sick. I mean, who do you think you are, waltzing into this family like you know us, like you belong? What's that supposed to mean? I just think that you should be back to your damn country. We don't want you or your little snotty kid here. Don't you dare talk about my son. I'll talk about whoever I want, however I want. Besides, all he is a good-for-nothing little... That's enough! Jenny, what the frick is wrong with you? Are you serious right now? I almost didn't recognize you. You sound so racist. Dean, what the hell? You told me he was in the shower. Yeah, well, I lied. I told him about your stupid little message. Did you really think I wasn't going to tell my husband about what you said? He just needed proof. And I'm so sorry for doubting you, babe. Jenny, what is wrong with you? Have you lost your mind? I can explain. Don't bother. I'm telling Mom about this. I don't believe you. After I hung up on Jenny, Dean was quick to apologize and assure me that he would set things right. It was like he was on a mission, wasting no time in cutting off ties with his sister for the sake of preserving our family. After we tried to enjoy the rest of our honeymoon, he was the one to break the news to Marie about Janice's hateful message. And we all gathered for a family meeting to address the situation. Marie was just as shocked as I was to hear her daughter spew such ugly things. Jenny, in tears, started playing the victim, insisting it wasn't fair that her words came out wrong, but I wasn't falling for it. Dean, true to his vows of protecting me and Dean, took a firm stand. He told his mom that he wanted nothing to do with Jenny, emphasizing that he was now raising a black son, and his priority was shielding Dean from people like Jenny in America. Oh, come on, Dean, you're being ridiculous. No, what's ridiculous is that you're a racist. I mean, how did this even happen? When did you hold such backward views? I don't know what she told you, but listen to me. No, I'm sorry, but I don't know if we can ever repair this. You know how much I love Michelle and Dean. Hell, you even supported me when I was dating her, and now that we're married, you're talking like this? You need a psych ward or something. Mom, please help me. No, dear, I'm afraid I can't. Not this time. I didn't raise my kids to be hateful. I don't know what any of this is about, but Jenny, I'm extremely disappointed in you. Despite Marie's anger, she couldn't completely sever ties with her daughter, unlike Dean. They grew distant, but the connection remained, whereas Dean and I were determined to never see Jenny's face again. 3 more years passed, and Dean, now 8, was having a great time with his dad, enjoying his childhood, and I was feeling quite blessed and appreciative of everything that life had given me so far. In those 3 years, Dean and I hadn't spoken to Jenny like we said, although she occasionally tried to reach out. I made it clear she wasn't welcome in my home. She bombarded me with texts claiming she had changed, but I wasn't in the mood to find out. Life was good with my husband and son, and we recently discovered we had a kid on the way, so I was savoring this peaceful moment in my life. But just like a roller coaster, the highs eventually have to come down. One night, as we were all relaxing in the living room, Dean received a call that his mom was in hospital. Her respiratory problems were worsening, making it increasingly difficult for her to breathe. We rushed to the hospital to find her in critical condition. She looked awful, and Dean was really scared, asking me if his gram was going to die. I didn't want to worry him, but I also didn't want to lie, so I told him that we needed to wait for the doctors to tell us what was happening. Marie's health was declining really fast, and the doctors gave us little hope. We spent the night by her side, recalling old memories and struggling to hold back our tears. She would go in and out of consciousness, and eventually the doctors had to sedate her so that she'd feel some sort of relief. But even when she was sedated, it's like we could all feel the life slowly being drained from her. I had grown to love that woman. She had always been so kind to me. I'll never forget the joy on her face the day we met in my shop. She was just a beacon of light. Sadly, at 2:32 that morning, Marie passed away peacefully in her sleep. Breaking the news to Dean was heart-wrenching, and Dean was obviously shattered. We felt like we were just getting our lives started, and this felt like we were taking 10,000 steps back. It was a tough time for all of us. Days passed and we found ourselves at Marie's funeral, paying our respects. Dean, usually strong-willed, was overcome with grief. I thought this loss had changed him forever. Even when we received the inheritance money Marie left us in her will, it felt bittersweet. Accepting it seemed like acknowledging her departure. To make matters worse, Jenny couldn't be bothered to attend the funeral. Can you believe it? After all her pleas for a second chance, she acted as if she couldn't care less. I was furious. But both Deans were too consumed by their grief to entertain Johnny's thoughtlessness. As the months passed, the void left by Marie's absence felt overwhelming. Even with my growing belly, I couldn't help but think about how she wouldn't have the chance to meet another grandbaby. The weight of her not being here was just too big to ignore. I got a text from Johnny one day while chilling in the garden. She was all apologetic, saying sorry for everything and explaining she didn't show up at the funeral because she felt ashamed. According to her, she was on this journey of self-improvement. I get distressed, but I don't know how someone fails to attend their own mother's funeral. I guess everyone copes in their own way and I can't judge. Despite her not being there for Marie's funeral, I couldn't help but feel a bit sad for Jenny. With Marie gone, she was left with barely anyone who could stand her. Her text surprised me, though. When I kept on reading, I saw that she wanted to take Dean to a newly opened adventure park, claiming they needed to catch up on some aunt-nephew fun. She said that I owed it to Dean to give this relationship a chance. She was urging me to prove to her. I was wary. But given the circumstances and feeling a tad sorry for Johnny, I agreed on one condition. I was coming along because, let's be real, I still didn't fully trust her. The day of the adventure park date arrived and Johnny seemed genuinely excited, all smiles and positive vibes. It almost reminded me of the first time we met at my shop years ago. As the day went on, I started feeling more comfortable around her. Johnny seemed genuinely interested in patching things up. And I was starting to let my guard down. But as luck would have it, we got separated in the crowd. I called out for Dean and Johnny, but there was no sign of them. Panic started to set in. Maybe it was my slower pace, being a pregnant woman in a bustling theme park. But I was genuinely worried. And that's when I had a light bulb moment. I started calling out to my son in Lingala, a native Congolese language that I had taught him. Lo and behold, I heard him responding, and I managed to find him. "I found you, Mama!" "Yes, you did. I'm so proud of you for being so brave and waiting for me. Now, where's your auntie?" "I don't know. When we got lost in the crowd, she was pulling on my arm really hard, though." "Oh?" "Yes, and she was saying something about how I'll pay. You'll pay for what you've done. But I told her I don't have any money." I was furious. What is this heifer talking about? Why was my son going to pay? Just as I was about to call her on my phone, she called me. Johnny called, sounding all smug and stuff, telling me to listen up. "I have your son in an undisclosed location right now." Before I could tell her, she was sorely mistaken. She started laughing like a witch. "What on earth are you talking about?" She spilled the beans that she'd planned all along to get me away from Dean so she could take him somewhere unknown. I was both mad and scared. How could she even dream of messing with my kid like that? Johnny just continued to laugh, saying it was payback for all the time she felt rejected by me and her brother, and that she had something that needed to be returned to her. "Give me the inheritance money that my mom gave to you, or else I'll ship your son back to where he came from." "What? You want my inheritance?" "It's mine, and I'll be damned if I let some immigrant take it away from me. Now hurry up. I want you to send it to my account details, and then I'll let go of your son." "Johnny, you have clearly fallen and hit your head, because no sane person would ever say crap like this. Are you all right?" "You have a lot of mouth for someone whose son has just been kidnapped." "Kidnapped?" "Yes. Have you not been hearing me?" "I've heard you loud and clear, Johnny. It's just that, well, my son is right here with me." "What? What are you talking about? He's right here." Then there was a pause, and then Jenny screamed bloody murder, realizing that she had grabbed the wrong kid. Looks like your plan didn't work out after all, huh? Now you have to answer to a very angry parent about their missing kid. That's what you get for threatening my son. You don't think this changes anything? I have friends in high places, you know, and I'll get you and your son one way or another. Yeah, good luck with that. Now excuse me while I call the cops on a kidnapper. Before she could speak, I cut the phone. I knew I had to act fast if I wanted to save this random kid from Jenny's evil plans. Because of her ignorance and bigotry, she grabbed a random black kid and assumed it was Dean. Could you believe it? How pathetic. Dean was furious when I called and explained the whole crazy situation. He felt guilty, thinking he'd let Dean down as a father. I reassured him that he did everything right and that Jenny's actions were on her, not him. Besides, she was getting arrested and would be behind bars, and I hoped she'd stay there for a good long while. The kid's parents were over the moon when they reunited with the kid that Jenny had accidentally kidnapped. They couldn't stop thanking me for calling the cops and helping to bring their son back safely. It felt good to be appreciated, but the whole ordeal left a bitter taste in my mouth. I just couldn't imagine someone being so evil and so vile. She literally stole a kid because of money. People in this world are sick. Seeing Jenny being taken away in handcuffs near the theme park was a crazy moment. She screamed and yelled, making a big scene, embarrassing herself even more. It was clear she didn't understand the gravity of her actions and how awful she truly was. I know Marie was looking down at her with shame. Trying to kidnap a child is no joke, and she is about to face the consequences. In the aftermath of it all, I was emotionally and physically drained. The trust between us was shattered, and I couldn't fathom why Jenny would go to such extremes. It was a dark chapter in our family history, and I knew it would take time to heal, if it ever could. Dean and I had a heart-to-heart about the whole situation. We vowed to protect Dean at all costs and agreed that Jenny had lost any chance of redemption in our eyes. I mean, we were pretty set before. But this time we were serious. There was no way we would let a convicted criminal anywhere near our family. It was a hard lesson, but it reinforced the importance of family and the lengths we'd go to keep each other safe. I felt a wave of relief, but the damage was done. Jenny's betrayal had wrecked whatever trust we'd started to build. Some things just can't be fixed, and Jenny had messed up big time. I promised myself I'd do whatever it took to keep Dean safe, even if it meant keeping him away from his own aunt. Hey y'all, my name's Belinda, 34, female. Every time I tell this story to friends and co-workers, they say it's so crazy I should upload it on Reddit or one of those story time channels on YouTube. So here I am, prepared to have your minds blown. You see, my story isn't like the typical in-law drama. I mean, in-laws are involved. When are they ever not? But not in the way you think. After getting married to Kurt, 37, male, I always thought my family was pretty standard, the usual mix of quirks, laughs, and the occasional embarrassing moment. Nothing crazy. Little did I know the real drama was waiting in the wings. The center of this whirlwind was my mother-in-law, Gail, 62, female, and my late father, Dave, 66, male. You see, Gail was the epitome of prim and proper. She liked things in perfect order, neatly arranged, and above all, she despised any hint of goofiness or messing around. Now, my dad, God rest his soul, was the complete opposite. He was a walking, talking comedy show, stumbling over his own feet and finding humor in every situation. Life was a joke to him, and he wouldn't have it any other way. His mantra was all about never taking anything too seriously because life was so short. Needless to say, Gail didn't really like my dad, and my dad, being the goofy guy he was pretty much oblivious to Gail's irritations. Although they didn't really get along as much, no one could say that my mother-in-law had anything against my dad. That was until the infamous luncheon she had that transformed her from a mean and grouchy old lady to Cruella de Vil herself. Picture it, a gathering of her high society friends, delicately sipping tea and nibbling on finger sandwiches, and then enters my dad, fashionably late, ready to sprinkle some chaos. First, he stumbled in like a cartoon character, drawing gasps from the gathered guests. Gail looked like she was about to murder someone, clearly feeling embarrassed. But wait, it gets better, or worse, depending on your perspective. In a crazy display of comedic misfortune, Dad managed to topple the piece de resistance, an ice sculpture that Gail probably paid a small fortune for. The gasps turned to horrified silence, and Gail's face turned a shade of red I didn't know was possible. You can imagine the chaos that ensued. Kurt and I were caught in the middle, desperately trying to smooth things over. Gail's luncheon had turned into a circus, and my dad was the ringmaster. The aftermath of that luncheon was like a twisted sitcom. Gail, bless her heart, was obviously devastated. I felt a pang of sympathy for her. She had put so much effort into that event, only for it to be hijacked by a well-meaning klutz. Dad, being Dad, was in overdrive with apologies. Gail's friends were ready to bolt, their noses high in the air, but Dad had a plan up his sleeve. In a surprising turn of events, Dad transformed the disaster into a comedy extravaganza. His impromptu stand-up routine and improv not only salvaged the day, but had everyone in stitches. Even the snooty guests couldn't resist cracking a smile. Everyone was having a ball, except for Gail, that is. She was in no mood for laughter. Dad tried everything to mend the situation, telling her that he'd pay her back for the damages caused. But Gail, determined to nurse her wounded pride, left her own party in a huff. Imagine that, leaving your own party and your own home because you were upset. Woof. From that day forward, it was like the War of the Roses in our family. Gail, still fuming, treated Dad like he was a cockroach. I get that she was pissed, and I let her stew in her anger for a while, but literal years went by and it seemed like things would never be patched up on her end. Dad was always extending the olive branch, but she'd either ignore it or downright swat it away. What really ticked me off is that she even skipped his funeral. Kurt and I were beyond upset. How could she let a silly event overshadow a man's entire life? So that night, emotions raw from Dad's funeral, I mustered the courage to ask Gail the burning question. What exactly was her problem? I needed to understand why she was letting this grudge cast a shadow over everything, especially in such a difficult time for our family. Gail, today was such a mess. Where were you? Why didn't you come? You know I never liked your father. I know, but you couldn't even show up at his freaking wake. I'm going to let that slide because I'm sure you're feeling very upset right now. Yeah, Gail, I'm very upset. My own mother-in-law couldn't bother attending my dad's funeral. How do you think that makes me feel? What about my feelings, Belinda? You guys didn't give a damn when that clown ruined my luncheon. I became a laughingstock after that. Do you know that? Oh, please, enough with the dramatics. Your friends loved my dad. And Kurt already told me how it was you who made yourself a laughingstock when you refused to re-invite him for the next event. You did this to yourself. And all for a block of ice? That's really pathetic, Gail. Life lost its color after Dad left us. His absence created a void, leaving behind memories of his outrageous antics that I would forever cherish. Following that heated phone call with Gail, our relationship took a hit. I wasn't in the mood to tiptoe around her feelings, especially when she was the one holding onto a grudge like it was a prized possession. Years rolled by and the tension between us didn't entirely dissipate, but we managed to coexist without setting off verbal fireworks. It wasn't the warmest relationship, but at least it wasn't explosive. Then one day, as I was grinding away at work, Kurt called me with a tone of distress. He spilled the beans about Gail's kitchen, which had turned into an unintentional bonfire. It seemed she forgot to switch off a burner, and now her house was set to be repaired. "She's pretty shaken up after the whole thing." "Yeah, I can imagine. What a shame. I'm glad she's okay." "Yeah, but her ego's bruised. She doesn't want to have to slum it up in hotels, and she doesn't want to live with anyone." Why am I not surprised? "Yeah, so we're currently looking for places, which brings me to ask you, is that rental property your dad used to own still available?" "Oh, that place. I almost forgot about it. Actually, my friend Kenya is living there with her husband. My dad gave them the house before he passed." "Oh man, that sucks. Was really counting on that rental for my mom to crash." "But if I remember correctly, she did tell me that she wanted to rent out that place and move back to her old home. They said they wanted to start a family and the other house is bigger, so guess it must be available." "Oh, that's great." "Let me talk to her and get back to you." I did just that, calling my childhood friend and asking her if what I said was true. And just as I thought, she and her hubby, Victor, were totally game for the plan. They were looking to rent out their place for some extra cash, and helping out my mother-in-law and I was like icing on the cake. Kenya promised they'd have everything ready in a jiffy. I couldn't wait to share the news with my mother-in-law. She genuinely seemed excited about the idea of a new place. It was surprising, but suddenly Gail's demeanor towards me shifted to the positive. Maybe she was feeling grateful or finally recognized that family should be there for each other instead of holding on to grudges. Despite everything that went down, I figured it was time to build some bridges. Things were going surprisingly well. Gail was all smiles and sweetness during the move. A side of her we rarely saw. Kurt and I were enjoying the positive vibes and appreciating the break from the usual tension for once. It seemed like everything was looking up for us now. Unfortunately, Kenya and Victor couldn't be there to hand over the keys, but that was all right. Kurt and I took charge, making sure Gail got settled into her new place. Once she was all squared away, we headed back to our own home. I couldn't shake off the strange feeling after that call. Gail's words about my dad and the sudden move-out plans didn't add up. It felt like there was more to the story than she was letting on. As the days passed, I decided to do some digging. I reached out to Kenya, who had connections in town and could possibly help me get to the bottom of things. I spilled the details about Gail's odd behavior, and Kenya agreed that it was worth looking into. After a bit of investigation, Kenya discovered something shocking. Gail had been spreading rumors in the neighborhood about Kurt and me, painting a picture of a strained relationship and insinuating that we were heading for divorce. I couldn't believe it. Why would she do such a thing? Furious and hurt, I confronted Gail about the rumors. She feigned innocence at first, but when I presented the evidence, she finally broke down. She admitted that she wanted to create chaos and drama in our lives, thinking it would bring some excitement and perhaps get my dad's attention. It was beyond absurd. Kurt and I decided that enough was enough. We asked Gail to leave immediately and cut off all ties with her. It was a painful decision, but we couldn't let her toxic actions poison our lives any further. Little did I know, this would be the final chapter in the saga of my strained relationship with Gail. It was all smooth sailing for a while. Gail didn't complain about the place, and she seemed to enjoy her time there. 2 months came and went by pretty fast, and I was about to head out to help Gail with moving out when she called me and surprised me by revealing that she had already left. "Hello, darling." "Hi, I was just about to start off. Just give me 10. Actually, I was calling to tell you that won't be necessary." "Oh, why?" "Well, because I just finished moving out." "All by yourself?" "Gail, that's dangerous. You know you have a bad hip." "Oh, stop it. I hired some people to help me move out." "That wasn't necessary, Gail. You know Kurt and I were meant to help you. You didn't have to spend any money." "Don't worry about it. I didn't want to waste your time. Besides, these guys were way faster than you two ever could have been." "Okay, but we were supposed to check the house, inspect it for anything. Just renter duties, I guess." "Don't worry about all of that. It's fine." "But, oh, how I wish I could see the look on your father's face." This caught me off guard. What did my dad have to do with anything? I asked her what she meant by that, and she said, I didn't mean to say that out loud." "Silly me. What I meant was, I wish your father was here to see how well we're all getting along." "Yes, I mean, it's what he's always wanted, right?" "Right. Yes, well, that's what I meant." "Should I come over that side? I imagine you're still at the property. Let me come, do a quick walkthrough and get the keys." "No, there's no need for that. Why don't I just come and drop them off at your place? You haven't left yet, right?" "Well, no, but I was about to." "And waste gas? Nonsense. Let me make my way over to you and hand over the keys." "Okay, Gail, you'll find me here." Gail was acting weirder than usual, and alarm bells were ringing in my head. Why did it seem like she didn't want me to come and see the place? Or help her? I mean, this was the lady who would want to be fed if she could. She was always dependent on people, especially if she could get it for free, so her hiring some people to help her move out was a bit iffy. And don't get me started on the way she was talking about my dad. All of it left me feeling uneasy, wondering what Gail was up to. Even though I felt odd about it, I decided to brush it off, chalking up Gail's weirdness to her just being excited to be back in her home. It was understandable. So soon enough, she came and dropped off her copy of the house keys. And when she dropped off the keys, I didn't question her further and let her go on her way. I called Kenya and Victor to inform them that Gail had moved out, but I hadn't done a walkthrough. "That's all right." "Are you sure? Because for some reason, Gail was being weird about it." "I'm sure everything's fine. I mean, we trust her and we trust you." "Exactly. Don't worry about it. We'll check on the house ourselves since we're already coming back into town tonight. So we'll swing by, don't you worry. And you can give us the keys tomorrow." "Okay then. Travel safely." I was planning on having a chilled evening with some wine and a bubble bath when all of a sudden my phone was going crazy with calls and texts from Kenya and Victor. It seemed like something was seriously wrong. I almost thought they had gotten into an accident. I called Kenya back, and boy was she not having it. "What the hell is this, Belinda? Are you screwing with us now?" Whoa, calm down. What's going on?" "Calm down? How do I calm down when your mother-in-law has completely ruined this place?" "What? What are you talking about?" "Just get over here." I started panicking, wondering what had happened and why Kenya was so upset. Quickly getting ready, I headed to the house, texting Kurt to meet me there because something was definitely up. When we arrived, horror awaited us. The outside of the house looked like a trap house, covered in dirt, grime, and scandalous graffiti. Initially, I thought some crappy neighborhood kids had done this just to be annoying, but Kenya was quick to point fingers at a much older person. "What did that witch do to our home? What the hell? Kenya, Vic, what's going on here?" You two should know. After all, it was Gail who did this, obviously. No, there's no way she'd do this. You haven't even seen the inside. I think it's worse. Stepping into the house, Kurt and I were hit by an overwhelming stench of, well, crap. The place was a disaster, with animal feces and sewage smeared all over the walls and floors. It was the worst thing I'd ever experienced in my life. We had to rush back outside, and Victor demanded an explanation as he held a sobbing Kenya in his arms. What the hell, you guys? Belinda, what is this? Guys, I'm sure there's a messed up but logical explanation for all of this. Yeah, my mom would never do such a thing. This is just as blindsiding to us as it is to you two. Listen, man, we did you guys a favor. I know, and we're so grateful. And this is how you repay us? With shit? I think all of us need to calm down. Calm down? Calm down? Why the frick would I calm down? Look at my home. I hate to say it, but we need to book Gail for her crimes. I already have my team looking into it. And I'm going to sue the shit out of her. She's going to learn today. Kurt and I were so shocked. We kept on asking questions out of pure disbelief. But Kenya and Victor said that they knew it was her. Who else could it have been? After all, she was the last person to be in the house. Despite all the signs pointing to her, we couldn't wrap our heads around why she would do something like this. Attempting to calm Kenya and Victor down, I suggested FaceTiming Gail so that we could get to the bottom of this. I told them that I would take accountability for this because I was the one who connected Kenya and Victor to Gail. I told everyone to stay out of the camera view so that she would think I was speaking to her alone. Hello? Hey, Gail, can I ask you a question? I'm at the house right now and... Oh, so you see the surprise I left you? If by surprise you mean an actual shit show, then yes, I see it. What the hell is this? Oh, Belinda, you sweet, naive child. You were so eager to give me your father's home. Didn't you know I'd get my revenge? Revenge? What revenge? For all those years ago, of course. You thought I forgot. Gail, what the heck are you talking about? You know, my luncheon, the ice sculpture. What? So you mean to tell me you disgraced this place all because of some ice? I told you that you needed to get over that. I'll never get over it. You're lucky that's all you got. I was going to burn down the place. How did you even do all of this? This is so disgusting, Gail. It's a new low, even for you. You think I was the one who did this? Oh no, I could never. I mean, I overlooked the work when it was being done, but God forbid I ever get down and dirty. Yuck. Then who did this? I pay the moving guys a little something extra so that they'd get the job done, but the graffiti was all me. You're disgusting, Gail. Maybe, but at least I've got my revenge on your stupid father and his stupid jokes. I hope he's rolling in his grave. I looked over at Kurt, Kenya, and Victor, who were all fuming and disgusted by what Gail was saying. But then I just started laughing, surprising everyone. This pissed Gail off. What's so funny? Well, just the fact that you thought you could get away with it. What do you mean? I already have. Are you sure about that, Gail? Yes, of course. Those bozos are still out of town, aren't they? And honestly, who's going to believe you? You have no proof. Oh, Gail, sweet, naive Gail, you have no idea, do you? This house doesn't belong to my dad. Well, it used to, as you know, but he gifted it to Kenya and Victor. Kenya? Victor? As in the lawyer and the town sheriff? Yeah, those two. Oh, yeah, oh. You're in a whole lot of trouble, Gail. I'm going to sue you for everything that you're worth, which by the looks of it probably isn't even much, but I'll be satisfied knowing I've destroyed you. Mom, how could you do something so awful? Kurt, wait, I can explain. I found the house like that. I left and everything was fine. I was just joking earlier. It's too late, Gail. We have your confession in the phone records as well as your face to go along with it. You just screwed yourself over. And it was all for your stupid revenge, all for a stupid block of ice. I still don't get what the big deal is. He literally paid you back. You don't understand how humiliated I was. He ruined my reputation. No, Gail, you did that all by yourself. Don't drag my dad into this crap. And it looks like you've cemented yourself as a bad shit crazy old lady. Congrats. Just wait until I see you in court. And then behind bars. Wait, I can explain, please. After being caught, Gail started apologizing to Kenya and Victor, essentially kissing their asses because she knew how professional and skilled they were at their jobs. She knew that she was screwed and she was trying everything in the book to win their affection, but the damage had been done. Kenya and Victor were yelling at Gail, mainly Kenya, and they were telling her that she was going to pay for everything that she had done. Gail was in tears, of course. I would be too if Kenya yelled at me like that, but I eventually had to cut the call and regroup with the team. Kurt and I began apologizing, feeling embarrassed about the whole situation. Kenya and Victor, despite initial anger, seemed to calm down a bit after scolding Gail and making her aware of the consequences she was about to face. Kenya assured me that everything would be all right as long as they got justice and made it clear that she held nothing against me and Kurt, since it was evident that we didn't know about Gail's horrid plans. Kurt and I offered to cover the cost of a cleaning service to restore the house, and Kenya and Victor were grateful, but they said, "That's really sweet, but I need it to come from her pockets." You know what? You're right. She's the one who did this, so she should pay. Babe, I'm sorry to say it, but your mom's a bitch, and she's going to get everything that's coming to her. Don't worry, babe. I'm right there with you. I'm going to head over there to make the arrest now. I'm going to come with you. That same night, Victor and Kurt went to Gail's home to make the arrest. Kurt later shared with me that it seemed like Gail was hastily packing her bags, perhaps trying to escape, but it was too late. As Gail awaited trial, she became the town's laughingstock, dubbed the crazy shit lady. People distanced themselves from her, including her friends and business associates, claiming she was ruined and that they wouldn't touch her with a 10-foot pole. Kurt cut her off, and to this day, despite her calls from the jail cell, he avoids her like the plague. Kenya remains furious and is determined to take Gail down in court. We love an independent queen who doesn't take crap from anyone. So yeah, guys, we're now awaiting the trial. Whenever Victor comes home from work, he tells Kenya, who then tells me how Gail continues to try to weasel her way out of facing jail time. Funny how the lady who was so obsessed with having a clean image was now down in the dumps. Hi, lovely people. Thank you for reviewing my story. I hope you enjoy it. My name's Ariana and I'm 26, female. Growing up, I was always that kid dreaming of a chaotic yet beautiful mess, a huge family. The kind you see in movies where there's always a kid running around, another one crying, and someone in the background yelling about dinner. Yeah, that was my dream, and it made me happy just thinking about it. Now, the idea of being a housewife, that was the icing on the cake for me. I wanted a litter of 8 or 9 little rascals, and I wasn't shy about letting my boyfriends know. Surprisingly, not many folks shared my vision. It scared off a fair share of potential boyfriends, leaving me swiping through dating apps with a dream that seemed a bit too ambitious for most, especially in the 21st century. I mean, I get it. Kids are expensive. So I knew that finding the right match was going to take a bit of time. Well, the years were floating by, and I don't know if you know this, but in order to have 8 to 9 kids, you're going to have to start fairly early. So when I hit 25, I started getting worried because nobody seemed to want me. I was lonely and frustrated, and I was honestly on the verge of giving up. Until one day, I found myself at a Kevin Hart comedy special, sitting next to this charming and, dare I say, an equally funny guy named Michael. Crazy, I know. It was a random and chance encounter that changed everything. We laughed together through the entire special, and by the end of the night, we were exchanging socials. At the time, I had just gotten out of a nasty breakup, so I didn't think this would go far. Just a night of laughter and maybe some temporary distraction. But Michael? Oh boy, he was persuasive in the best possible way, if you catch my drift. Michael was quite the charmer. He had this way of making me feel like I was the only girl in the world. It was sweet. And I was totally in love. Marriage was the end goal for me, of course, and I couldn't wait to meet his family. But for some reason, even after several months of dating, Michael seemed hesitant about introducing me to his folks. It was weird. I mean, we were serious, right? I kept on bugging him about it, asking why he was keeping me hidden from his family. Dodgy answers and sidestepping became his thing. One day I just couldn't take it anymore, and I demanded, "At least let me meet your mom." That seemed to scare him a bit. I pressed him, asking what his problem was, and well, let's just say that turned into an argument. "Michael, we've been together for months now, and I still haven't met your family. What's the deal?" "Don't come at me with that. I'm probably never going to meet your family, so why are you rushing me?" "That's not fair, Michael. You know I don't talk to my family like that. But you're good with your family, so what's the hold-up?" "Ariana, it's not that simple." "Come on, it's time. At least let me meet your mom. What's the big secret?" "No!" "Excuse me?" "Look, Ariana, my mom is different. I've been avoiding this because I knew it might complicate things." "Different? How? Complicate things? How?" She's got some pretty backward views, you know. She might not be comfortable with us being together." "What do you mean?" Ariana, she's kind of racist. I know it's messed up, but that's just how she is." "What? I didn't expect that at all. You're serious?" "Dead serious. I didn't want to bring you into this mess, but I also didn't want to lose you." "Just when were you planning on telling me that your mom is racist?" "Look, Ariana, to be honest, I didn't even know that we would be together this long." "Excuse me?" "No, wait, that came out wrong." "You think? Is that all you ever wanted? To hook up with a Latina and then leave? You're sick." "Ari, please wait, hear me out. I was scared, okay? I knew you'd react like this, and no, that's not why I'm with you. I've grown to love you. I want to be with you. Only you." "Yeah? Well, I'm not so sure I want to be with you anymore. Thanks for wasting my time." I took some time away from Michael after learning about his mom being racist. That hurt, ran deep, and it seemed like a deal breaker. For months he kept blowing up my phone, pleading for another chance. His consistency told me that he was being genuine and that he really cared for me. I'm not going to lie, I felt kind of special being chased after like that. And that's on daddy issues. So I was falling for him all over again. I told him that we could get back together on the condition that we meet his mom. When he agreed to introduce me to his mother that very same day, I was cautiously on board. It was both surprising and touching that he was willing to fight for us. I half expected him to flat out say no, like he always did, giving me the strength to reject him once and for all. But he seemed to be willing, and so I was willing. I mean, that is what I wanted all along, right? I kept telling myself that everything would be okay, that they would see me for me and not my race, and I was crossing my fingers when we finally met up. The day came, and Michael nervously led me to his parents' house. I was on edge, not knowing what to expect. As we walked in, his mom, Rose, greeted us with a forced smile, It was obvious she wasn't thrilled. Uh-oh. We exchanged awkward pleasantries, but as we talked more and more, I could sense the tension growing. Rose made little effort to hide her discomfort, and it felt like there was an invisible wall between us. Michael tried to mediate, but it was clear his mom wasn't budging. As we sat in their living room, I couldn't help but feel like an outsider. Rose didn't ask me anything about myself and only engaged in conversation when necessary. It was painfully obvious that she disapproved of our relationship. And that's the story of how we met. He was very sweet to me, and I fell for him instantly. I felt the exact same way, babe. Rose, I would love to take you to one of these specials. There's this really cool comedian who's all about women and women's rights and... Remind me again, what's your name? Oh, it's Ariana. Ariana dos Santos. Ariana. Michael, I'm not going to lie, I'm a bit disappointed. Mom, can we just enjoy dinner? Ariana's an important part of my life. Well, let's see about that. What do you do for a living, Ariana? I work in marketing. It's... marketing. I thought your people... What about my people? I'm just saying I never would have pegged you for the marketing type. Is that even a stable career, Michael? Mom, Ariana's successful in what she does. You have to respect that. And your family, Ariana, what do they do? My family... You don't need to ask her about that. It's a bit of a sore spot. Typical. Mom, what is wrong with you? Michael, you can do better. Mom, that's not fair. Ariana is wonderful. Mrs. Rose, I don't think... Please, dear, let the adults talk. Mom, that's enough. We're here to enjoy a meal, not to interrogate Ariana like she's some criminal. I mean, have you checked? I swear to God, Mom. I'm just asking, don't be mad at me because I have your best interests at heart. Like I said, we're here to sit down, enjoy each other's company, and enjoy this meal. Enjoy your meal then. We'll see how long this, whatever this is, lasts. Michael, I don't know what to say. I'm sorry, Ariana. My mom can be difficult. Just ignore her, please. Okay, let's try to enjoy dinner. After a strained and uncomfortable evening, we left and Michael apologized a lot. He admitted he underestimated how challenging this would be and promised to talk to his mom to try and make her understand. Days turned into weeks, and Michael kept reassuring me that he was working on it. However, deep down, I couldn't shake off the feeling that our relationship was trapped in a web of stupid family drama. I really should have left him then and there, but for some reason I didn't. I just thought that things would get better. I saw Michael trying so hard for us, so I thought that everything would turn out okay. I thought, that's the type of person I want as a husband and a father. He was so strong and he was constantly fighting, so this was ticking all the boxes in my head. So as time went on, the tension with Michael's family stuck around like a bad smell. We tried to build our life together, but the fact that his family skipped out on important stuff just made the disapproval more obvious. Michael and I ended up getting married in a small chapel where neither of our family members showed up. His family didn't approve of this wedding, and mine didn't show up either because I've always had a toxic relationship with my family. Michael did his best to have my back, but I'm not going to lie, the whole dream of a big happy family was slipping away. The thought of bringing kids into a world where they might not be fully accepted was eating at me day by day. Talks about starting a family turned into quiet thinking sessions. I just couldn't see myself bringing kids into a world where they might not be fully accepted. The memory of my wedding day just added to the heavy load on my mind. I tried to push down those feelings, but it was tough. Crying became a regular thing, and no matter how much Michael tried to reassure me, the pain stuck around. I started wondering if I could handle a lifetime of family gatherings tainted by ignorance and prejudice. Michael, always looking on the bright side, Kept thinking things would get better, but deep down, I couldn't shake the sadness. A couple of months went by and I found out I was pregnant. You'd think I'd be over the moon, right? Well, reality hit differently. The happiness was there, sure, but it was tangled up with loads of worry and stress. The constant fear of how my in-laws, especially my horrible mother-in-law, would react to this news stole the pure joy that should have come with a wanted pregnancy. I felt robbed of the life I wanted, and it made me sick, not just metaphorically. Stress got the best of me, and I couldn't shake the fear that it might affect the pregnancy. Every little thing felt like a potential threat to me. I couldn't help but wonder if my constant stress would take a toll on the baby's well-being, and I hated myself for worrying so much. But I also hated Michael's family for causing this crap in the first place. And then there was Michael. I get it, dealing with a partner who's practically a tear factory isn't a walk in the park, but with a husband like him who needs enemies. I sensed a bit of resentment from him because he was juggling working and taking care of me. I tried to be better, to not unload my worries on him every day, but it seemed like the resentment was growing no matter what I did. Even if I bottled up my emotions or didn't tell him about the several meltdowns I had that day, every time he'd come home, he seemed to just be irked with me. Michael, what's wrong? You've been acting off lately. Can't you see I'm dealing with a lot? I don't need more stress. I'm just trying to help. What's gotten into you? You're always on my case, Ariana. Can't you just give it a rest? I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bother you. I just thought we could talk. It's been so hard with the pregnancy. I don't know what to do. Isn't this what you wanted, huh? A big happy family? Didn't you know that this is what it took? What's that supposed to mean? You're always crying and complaining and crying some more. It's exhausting. I know. I've been going through a lot and I've been doing the most. I can't help it. Really, I'm not doing any of this on purpose. I'm sorry, Michael. No, I shouldn't have yelled. I've just been stressed out. I didn't mean to take it out on you. I'm sorry, babe. Please don't be upset. Looking back, those arguments with Michael felt like a broken record. I'd cautiously approach him, trying to understand, only to be met with more anger, and eventually his BS apology. It became a painful cycle, and I was dealing with a lot already, so this was particularly hurtful. Looking back, I can confidently say that my pregnancy was far from the blissful experience I had hoped for, and I resent that every day. I attempted to bridge the gap with my mother-in-law, of course, hoping to find some comfort and support since I wasn't getting any from my man. Each time, however, I was met with rejection and hurtful comments about me and the baby. I was just about to give up hope on everyone when one day Rose called me, sounding as sweet as sugar. Ariana, I'm so glad you picked up. Are you? Yes, of course I am. Listen, I need your help with something. Of course, anything. So, as you know, my 50th is slowly approaching and I need your help with organizing the event. While I was touched by the prospect of us finally getting along and seeing eye to eye, the timing couldn't have been worse. At 8 months pregnant, I was practically immobile. I looked like a freaking hot air balloon with elephant-sized feet. I spent most of my days resting and lounging around because I physically couldn't move. When I told her this, the OG Rose made a return, cussing and yelling at me and calling me useless. Is that why you were sounding so sweet just now, because you needed help? Shame on me for thinking you'd actually change, Rose. You're just like your ancestors. You say that like it's a bad thing. Thanks for nothing, as usual. I was so ready to give up on everyone and everything. But I felt trapped because I was heavily pregnant with nowhere to go and no one to truly rely on. I was just waiting for the day I'd give birth to my beautiful baby so that I'd at least be a little bit happy. Another month went by and I was at Rose's 50th birthday party with Michael, standing at the entrance, It was the first time I had seen him smile in months, and I was looking forward to spending some quality time with him. Maybe it was all the excitement, but just as we were about to enter, I felt something strange drip down my legs. My water had broken. Panic set in, and I quickly told Michael. He led me aside to figure out what to do, but I couldn't shake off the panic. Then came the moment that, looking back, should have made me slap him. Michael suggested I go ahead to the hospital by myself, while he spent some time with his mom for about 20 minutes just so he could enjoy the party a bit. He promised to join me soon. Stupidly, I agreed to this without fully realizing the risks, thinking that Rose would be so impressed with me for not causing a scene and for handling this daunting task like a grown woman. I made it to the hospital when my cramps had just started setting in, making this all too real for me. In no time, I found myself in a hospital gown connected to tubes, dealing with intense labor pains. I called Michael, practically shouting into the phone, demanding he get to the hospital ASAP. The situation was serious and I needed him with me. "Sorry, babe, but I'm not coming." "What? What are you talking about?" "I'm enjoying myself here. Figure it out on your own." "Did you hit your head or something? What's wrong with you? You sound like your mother." "Maybe I should. She's been telling me about you, telling me that baby might not even be mine." "What? What the hell are you talking about?" "You think I don't know how your people act?" "My people? Oh my God, your mother has completely brainwashed you, huh? Funny, I thought you were smarter than that, but I guess the racist apple doesn't fall far from the racist tree." "Say whatever you want, but I know your type. Girls like you just want to ride on my coattails, messing around with every guy in the neighborhood while I'm at work. You're disgusting." "Michael, please, I never cheated on you. This baby is yours. If you come to the hospital, we can prove it." "Don't bother. I'm going to enjoy this party. My mom worked too hard on this, and I don't know if I can trust you." "Is that why you've been acting so weird, huh? Is that why you sent me here all alone, because you listened to your stupid mom? You're crazy. You should know better. What happened to us, huh? I'm literally shaking with pain for your child, and you don't want to see me? This is insane." "Don't call me back. I'm having some much needed fun. All the best with that bastard baby." I was left speechless after that call, and the nurses exchanged awkward glances, probably feeling bad for the drama they unintentionally overheard. The labor pains were intensifying, and the realization hit me. I had to make a call I'd been avoiding for a while. Somehow, through all the pain, I dialed my brother, Petros. It had been years since I'd last spoken to him, so I knew he'd be surprised. He started off by saying that he didn't want to speak to me, but I quickly cut him off to tell him that I was not doing okay and that I wouldn't have called if it wasn't for anything serious. Things weren't so good the last time we left things. He was pretty upset when I left home at 16 because of our toxic parents, but I had to do it. I spilled everything out, explaining that I needed his help. The beeping noise in the background, mixed with my groans of pain, led him to ask what was going on. I revealed that I was in labor and I was alone and I was scared. I know Petros like the back of my hand. No matter how mad he was, he'd always be there for his sister. So he told me that I needed to send him my location and that he'd be there ASAP. I was feeling much better, knowing that I wouldn't be completely alone through all of this. And I don't know if it was the fluctuation in hormones, but I was so angry. I was angry at Michael, at Rose, and at everyone and everything. Even while I was getting ready to push out a human being, my mind was focused on revenge. So before I cut the call with Petros, I asked him for one last favor. You see, Petros worked in the local police department and was climbing the ranks because I'd seen him make some appearances in the news and stuff. He was really killing it. I knew he had some connections that could help alleviate some stress. After a bit of convincing, he reluctantly agreed to help me out, clearly feeling sympathetic towards my problem. I told my brother Petros to shut down Rose's birthday party. I explained they weren't good people and they clearly needed to be taught a lesson. Petros said he'd handle it, telling me all I needed to worry about was delivering a healthy baby, so I waited. About 30 minutes later, I was still cramping up and Michael started blowing up my phone. When I answered, he sounded panicked, describing the scene like a SWAT team had torn everything apart at the party. Can you believe it? I don't know what to do. Hey, do you have a warrant for that? My mom is so upset. Michael, I'm literally giving birth right now. I don't care about your stupid problems and your mother's stupid party. In fact, I'm glad it got shut down. How could you say that? She hasn't stopped bawling her eyes out. Good. Now I'm sure she knows how it feels to be upset about something that has been completely ruined. I just wish I was there to see her face. What's that supposed to mean? I couldn't help but laugh. I told Michael he shouldn't have messed with me, saying if I had to have a crappy night, then so did everyone else. I was the one who called the cops on the party. What? Oh my God, my mother was right about you. No, Michael, she seriously wasn't, but you two have been wanting to paint me out to be the bad guy, so there you have it. Hopefully, my little stunt gives you something to talk about, since you two are clearly racist a-holes with nothing better to do. Hey, I'm not racist. I treated you right. You were the one who was messing around with... And this is all based on what exactly? Stereotypes? Because it sure as hell isn't evidence, because there is none. Mom is now being handcuffed. What the frick? Get your hands off my mother. She didn't do anything. Very faintly in the background, I could hear what sounded like Petros saying that they wanted to do a thorough background check on Rose and that she'd have to spend the night in a cell. What? This is insane. I didn't do anything. You can't do this to me. I hate you. You and your people are always screwing with us. Leave us alone. I hung up the call because the labor pains were really amping up, and I was set on focusing on my baby instead of that BS nonsense. Even though I couldn't move, I felt like I was on top of the world. These people had disrespected me for the longest time, and they expected me to sit back and watch? No siree, not even when there's a baby on the way. I'm so glad I got my revenge. Hi guys, my name is Nicola, 33, female. I was born into the dual world of Germany and America, juggling two different cultures from the get-go. My mom, being German, meant I spent more time in Deutschland since my parents decided they were better off apart. At 23, I made the bold choice to plant my roots permanently in the States, simply because I wanted to understand this part of my culture better. Plus, I wanted a chance to meet all these celebrities. A girl can dream, right? Now, let's talk about my accent. Picture this. It's quite thick. It made me a bit of an oddball in the cultural melting pot, and the struggle to fit in was real. To go through this, I decided to hit the books, languages to be precise. I figured if I could smooth out my conversational edges, life would be a tad simpler. So I enrolled in college and took languages as my course. College was where everything changed. Enter Terence, the charismatic TA in my course. Sure, there were some flirtations here and there, but we knew better than to tread on the forbidden ground of student-teacher entanglements. We, mainly me, went for the mature route, see other people and keep things kosher. Let's just say the heart wanted what it wanted. As soon as I tossed my graduation cap into the air, I was 26 at the time, a text from Terence pinged on my phone. It was one of those heartfelt messages where he spilled his guts out, confessing he'd never met anyone like me and wanted to see if there was more to us. He was begging me to give him a chance. My smitten heart skipped a beat. An American guy wanted me for me, and it felt like the universe was cutting me some slack for a change. After dating for 2 years, Terence threw me a curveball by popping the question. It was like Time just paused and I was hit with this wave of joy. He showed me what it meant to really live and be alive. Terence wasn't just my boyfriend, he was my everything. Our wedding day is stuck in my head like a favorite song. I can still hear his promises to be my anchor and the sunshine in my life. I was all in, ready to face life's ups and downs with this amazing man. I stood there looking into Terence's eyes as he began to speak his vows. He certainly had a way with words. I mean, go figure, right? He did teach languages. Nicola, from the moment our paths crossed, my life has been a beautiful symphony. Your laughter is the melody that dances through my days, and your love is the harmonious tune that serenades my heart. My eyes welled up with tears, and I knew at that moment that I was making the right choice. I promised to cherish every sunrise and sunset with you, to be the anchor in your storms, and the sunlight in your brightest days. With you, I found my home, my partner, and my best friend. Today, I vow to stand by your side through all the chapters of our extraordinary adventure. Nicola, you are my greatest adventure, my confidant, and my forever. I promise to love you, honor you, and cherish you for all the days of our lives. I swear, from the corner of my eye, I could see all the women swooning. He was just so charming and so amazing. I often found myself asking, what's the catch? Well, soon enough I found out exactly what the catch was. We were married for around a year when I started picking up on some red flags. Maybe we were just getting tired of each other, or maybe I finally took off those rose-tinted glasses. Whatever it was, we started getting on each other's nerves. I was frustrated because he was never around. Always off on those supposed business trips that just didn't add up. I mean, how can a regular guy have 3 out-of-town business trips in the same week? Hey, Terence, can we talk? What's up? I've been feeling like we're kind of drifting apart lately. Oh, this is just great. You know how my work goes. Being a TA is a tiring job. I've been swamped with work, Nicola. Can't you understand that? It's not like I'm off having a blast. I get it, Terence, but we're married and it feels like you're avoiding me. I just want us to be on the same page. I want you to know that I'm hurt by this. You're always pressuring me, Nicola. Can't you see I'm trying my best here? I'm not trying to pressure you. I just want us to figure this out together. I miss us, Terence. Well, maybe if you backed off a bit, I wouldn't feel so suffocated. I've got things to handle, and your constant nagging isn't helping. This is important to me, Terence. I thought it would be important to you too. Yeah, well, maybe you're expecting too much. I've got to go. We'll talk later or whatever. I almost couldn't believe that the man who sounded like Shakespeare at my wedding was speaking to me like this now. It was fishy. And yes, before you badger me, I had my suspicions. Of course, I thought, is he cheating on me? I didn't want to accept it at first, but my Mutter didn't raise a punk, so I decided to get down and dirty and begin my sleuthing work. I honestly deserve a medal for all the work I did. I snooped around his phone, emails, even bank statements, but there was nothing. No evidence to back up my suspicions. I felt like I was going crazy. I was so puzzled. Where on earth was he going, if not off to cheat on me? I decided that if I wanted real answers, I had to ask the source. Sneakily, of course. I decided to play it smart, you know. I didn't want him to catch on to my little investigation, so I started asking casual questions about his trip. Just dropping them into our everyday conversations like it was no big deal. But every time I asked, he had some slick excuse. Oh, just a last-minute meeting. Sorry, babe. Or, there are some rich people from Dubai who want my teaching services and they're a tough crowd to please, so I gotta build rapport and get on their good side. You know how it goes. It all sounded fishy, but without hard proof, I couldn't exactly call him out. I knew it would blow up into a big thing. It reached a point where I started to doubt myself. Maybe I was being paranoid or reading too much into things. But deep down, my gut feeling told me something was off. I couldn't shake that nagging suspicion that he was up to something shady. Another year passed and Terence's distance grew even more noticeable. It felt like I was closer to my girlfriends than to my husband, which just shouldn't be the case in a marriage. I always dreamed of marrying my partner in crime, my best friend, but with each passing month it felt more like I was married to a stranger. I eventually stopped complaining about him never being home. Instead, I decided to grab his attention by showing him what he was missing out on. Every time he left, I would post pictures of me looking cute, having fun and hanging out with my friends. He complained about it, texting me saying I wasn't giving him a good look and that I was being too rowdy. Whatever, man. He was making it seem like I was hoeing around when in reality he just couldn't handle how good I was looking. But I didn't care. I was living my best life. Now, you all should know I did not and do not have children. And I never wanted to either. Terence knew about this, and it was one of the things we adamantly agreed on. So imagine my surprise when one day after his business trip he came home and said we should have kids. I was like, hold up. Did you just teleport into an alternate reality or something? I was convinced there was a glitch in the Matrix. But no, he was dead serious. His reasoning? It's what couples do, babe. We build a family together. I thought I was going to choke on my own spit. We had discussed this countless times and now he was pulling 180 on me? What in the world was going on? I asked him if he was feeling okay, thinking maybe he hit his head during one of those business trips. But no, he insisted that he'd had a change of heart and wanted mini-me's running around the house. I wasn't having it. I told him straight up. We agreed on this, Terence. What's going on? Are you going through a midlife crisis or something? I know, but am I not allowed to change my mind? Of course. You can change your mind on your Panera order or something, but not when it comes to kids, Terence. I thought we were on the same page. How long have you been feeling this way? Honestly, since we were dating. What? Why didn't you say anything? Because I knew how you'd react. Well, would you prefer I kill you now or later, Terence? Oh, stop it, Nicola. I'm trying to have a serious conversation with you. So am I. This changes everything. No, it doesn't. Look, I've been thinking about it more and more, and, well, it seems like a pretty good solution for your boredom. Boredom? Terence, do you think I'm being complaining for the past 2 years because I was bored? I miss you. I miss the US. I'm not bored. I just want to spend some time with my freaking husband. A kid isn't going to fix or change anything. Honestly, it might just make things worse. That's what you say. But I know plenty of women who are happy having children. Then maybe you should have married one of them. Why drag me into this if you knew that you wanted to have kids? Hey, calm down. It was just a suggestion, all right? Didn't really sound like a suggestion 2 minutes ago. Just drop it, okay? Forget I said anything. I have to go. What? You just got here. I just came to drop off my bags. I have to go to the office and grade papers. Well, when are you gonna be back? 2, maybe 3 a.m.? Unbelievable! And that, my friends, was the beginning of the end. The kid bomb he dropped hit me like a ton of bricks. I mean, seriously? We talked about this so many times, and not once did he ever express an inkling of doubt about our decision to be happily child-free. It was like he flipped a switch and I was left feeling utterly turned off by the person I thought I knew. As the months crawled by, our marriage turned into a disaster. I was growing more and more distant, just like him. And sticking around felt like signing up for a front row seat at a daily shit show. 4 years of this nonsense was my limit. So I did what any sane person would do. I dropped the D-word bomb and slid those divorce papers across the table one night after dinner. I was tired, so damn tired, of trying to salvage something that was clearly sinking. I'd be damned if I'd keep pouring love into a relationship where I was getting nothing back. And you know what happened? Suddenly, Mr. Not So Sure About Kids became Mr. Waterworks. Now he's crying and begging for me to stick around, claiming he can change, that things will be different. But honey, talk is cheap, and at that point, I was ready to cash out. It was honestly mind-boggling. This guy who had been emotionally missing in action for who knows how long suddenly broke down at the mention of divorce. It was like I flipped a switch and now he was the one desperate to hold on. I couldn't help but roll my eyes at the theatrics. It was way too late for Waterworks. I'd been begging for emotional connection for years, and all I got was radio silence. Now, when I wanted out, he decided to put on a show. He wasn't begging for me. He was begging for the idea of me. The idea of having a wife, a companion, someone to fill the space next to him. Not because he genuinely cared about me or the relationship he had. But obviously, at the time, my stupid brain didn't know that, so guess what I did? I stayed. I forgave him, and I stayed. I laid it out plain and simple for Terence. If he wanted me to stick around, he had to show some genuine love and compassion. Honestly, I wasn't holding my breath because promises had been made before and they turned out to be as reliable as a broken clock. But surprise, surprise, he actually started to deliver. Terence became more thoughtful, around more often, and the spark that had fizzled out was reignited. I found myself thinking, there's my man. He was back and I couldn't have been happier. Fast forward to our 5-year anniversary and Terence was going all out. He made it a point to leave work early to whisk me away to this special restaurant he was raving about. I was over the moon with excitement. The restaurant had this dreamy ambience that transported you to another world. Apparently, one of his co-workers introduced him to the joint and it was slowly becoming my favorite place. We were having a great time, chit-chatting away, when our waitress decided to make her grand entrance. Now, this girl had been unusually familiar with us the entire night. She lingered at our table, laughing, joking with Terence, and I couldn't help but notice her glances our way. Call it a bit of jealousy, but mostly I was left wondering, why was she all up in our business? Terence, why is our waitress so comfortable with us? What? I hadn't noticed. Actually, come to think of it, she's mainly comfortable with you. Babe, you're being ridiculous. She's just super friendly. Okay, if you say so. Can we please go back to enjoying our dinner? Okay, fine. Just when I said that, I saw the girl coming over to our table. Hey there, how are you two lovebirds tonight? Sabine, we're fine. Just give us a moment. Sabine? That's my name, ma'am. Terence? Sabine, thank you so much for tending our table, but I think we're all good here. How does she know your name? Oh, that's because I know his Sabine, I said we're fine. Thank you so much for everything. But I haven't even read the special dessert menu for you two. It's okay. We'll have the cheesecake. Actually, I'd like to hear about the dessert menu. Please, Sabine? My pleasure, ma'am. She went on to tell us what was on the menu, and I noticed that my husband looked like he was sweating through his shirt. And finally, we have the malva pudding, which is to die for. Terence knows all about it. Right. That will be all, Sabine. Thanks once again for everything. You can go now. Right away, sir. And I hope I don't come off as too forward when I say this, but I'm really going to miss seeing you and your little tyke coming in on the weekends. Whenever you guys are around, this whole place lights up. Terence started to choke on his water, and I almost had to check my ears to see if I was hearing right. Little tyke? What the hell are you talking about? Now the waitress girl looked confused. His kid, TJ, right? Oh, Terence, you have a kid. I can explain. Oh, I see that I've made a huge mistake. No, quite the contrary. You seem to know a lot about Terence, so please, why don't you go ahead and explain what you know? I think I'm needed in the kitchen. Sit down and tell me everything you know. Sabine immediately took a seat when I told her to. She spilled the beans on Terence, revealing that he's been having an affair for the past 5 years, pretty much our entire marriage. He had a whole family outside of our life together, and no one was the wiser. Her name is Shannon. She's my boss, sister. So they would normally come in on the weekends for dinner. Terence, on the other side of the table, was shaking. If it wasn't for the restaurant's ambient music and laid-back vibes, I swear I would have jumped across and wrung his neck with my cold, dead hands. Terence attempted to get Sabine to shut up, but I began speaking in German. I figured with a name like Sabine, she had some German roots. My assumption was correct, and she responded in German, spilling even more details. What the hell are you two saying? Sabine, stop it right now. I swear to you, I had no idea that he was cheating. He's never mentioned you or anything. How could he? He's a lying, dirty scumbag. I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. What else do you know? Turns out, almost every weekend for the past 5 years, Terence and his secret family, including a kid named TJ, would come to this restaurant. Little TJ apparently charmed everyone with his goofy antics. Sabine, genuinely oblivious to any issues, spilled everything she knew. She mentioned they were planning to move, hence her comment about missing them. Sabine looked like she was on the verge of tears by the time she finished her tale. I thanked her, waved her off, and then stared directly at my husband, who was now beet red. I want to go home. Nicola, please. Terence, the only word I want to hear from you right now is yes. If I get anything other than that, I'm going to scream. Okay, calm down, okay? Let's go home and sort this out. The drive home was dead silent, of course. Terence tried to speak and explain himself, but I shut him an "if you dare" type of look, which quickly shut him up. When we got home, I bolted. I made my way to our bedroom, shut and locked the door behind me. Terence followed me, banging on the door and asking if we could talk, but I wasn't about to let him in. He probably thought that I wasn't going to let him sleep in the bed that night. Well, he was in for something much worse. I can tell you that. I needed my revenge. It was like I was on autopilot. I wanted the rage I was feeling to come to life, so I started by taking all of his work, documents, including some important papers the college had lent him, with some documents dating back to the 1900s, and set them ablaze. Then I got to work on his clothes, burning them too. I found all of his collectibles. He used to collect anime cards, I think they're called Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and action figures, and set those on fire as well. Basically anything and everything he held near and dear to his heart was going to get a taste of the lighter I held in my hand. Terence began to smell the smoke, and he started banging even harder, yelling for me to get out. I didn't want to suffocate, of course, so after a short while, when I made sure everything was getting nice and toasty, I opened the door. He was shocked to find the room turning into a scene from hell, and he started yelling at me. What the hell, Nicola? Are you insane? Maybe. Look, I get it. You're mad, but burning my things? Was that really necessary? How the hell am I going to explain this? You could tell your boss the truth. Tell him that the reason you don't have his documents is because you double-crossed your wife. You burned my documents too? What the hell? He tried to run inside, but now the flames were a little too fierce. He started cursing and punching the wall. I could sue you for this. You could, but you won't. Oh yeah? Tell me a good reason why I wouldn't. Because if you do, I'm going to expose your little affair. Newsflash, sweetheart. Having an affair isn't illegal. Destroying someone's property is. You're right. But how would you feel knowing that little TJ would have a sorry excuse for a father? Think about it, Terence. You'll be a pariah. A broke, sad, miserable pariah. Your son will grow up hating you because of what you pushed me to do. Nicola, you're crazy. Yeah, and you're an asshat. Just wait till I call the cops on you. Do it! I dare you. Your house is on the verge of burning down as we speak, and you're worried about me? You've got the wrong priorities, my friend. You're lucky I didn't do much worse. I could have waited for you to fall asleep and set you on fire instead. But I don't believe children should grow up without their fathers. So this was the next best thing. You're a monster. You made me this way. All those years of fighting for us and you were out there whoring around. What happened to those beautiful vows, huh? What happened to keeping your promises? You lied to me and you expect me to be calm about it? I'm sorry, Nicola. Please don't do this. I'll call the fire department and tell them it was my fault. We can fix this. I'm done. Call the department if you want to. You can even put the blame on me. But just know that if you do, I'll ruin your life. You already have. I'm going to be jobless after tonight. Oh, boo-hoo. I feel so bad for you. You made my life miserable, and for what? Just so you can live out your fantasy of having 2 lives? This isn't Hannah Montana, Terence. Is that why you wanted me to have kids 2 years ago? Because you thought that I'd be too busy to notice you on your escapades? You make me sick, Terence. I'm getting out of here before I die of smoke inhalation. And remember those divorce papers I gave you last year? You can find those in the kitchen drawer. I hope you have a miserable life, you sorry excuse for a man. Terence kept calling after me as I grabbed my keys, but I wasn't listening. I made my way to the door and drove in my car for what felt like hours with no real place to go. Terence kept calling and texting, saying that the fire was now out of control and the fire department was taking too long to arrive, but I didn't bother responding. I ended up spending the night in a hotel. When I woke up in the morning, I got a lovely update from my husband. Turns out that the fire was too out of control, and since the firefighters were delaying due to some accident that was blocking the road, the fire had spread and it had damaged more than the bedroom. It spread to the bathroom and the living room, which I know would cost a fortune to repair. Terence ended up losing his job, his wife, and part of his house all in one night, and he was about to lose much more. I know I said I wouldn't reveal the truth to his other family if he went to the cops to tell them what I did, but I don't care. Terence is a wuss. He's not going to do or say anything. Besides, there's no proof that it was me who set the stuff on fire. So I'm just chilling. I am already in the works of getting Shannon's contact details from Sabine so that I can tell her everything, because she deserves to know. That'll teach that rat to mess with me. Hey y'all, my name's Claudia, 37, female. Thanks for selecting my story. I guess I'll jump right into it. I was always one of those people who thought she had her whole life planned out. I mean, who doesn't, right? But life is like that messy ball of yarn that your cat gets into, and suddenly everything is tangled and confusing. I lost my first husband when I was just 27. It was like life hit me with a sucker punch. We were young and in love, or at least that's what I thought. He got into a car accident, and just like that, he was gone. It felt like someone had pulled the ground from under me, tossing me off. The pain and stress of losing him made me believe I'd never find love again. The idea of opening up my heart to someone new seemed impossible. Years started flying by and I started feeling this loneliness creeping in. I craved companionship, but the idea of jumping into the dating scene terrified me. Where do you even start? So there I was, dabbling in the world of online dating, speed dating, you name it. But honestly, no man seemed to ignite that spark. They were either too bland, too intense, or just not the right fit. It felt like searching for a needle in a haystack. Enter Lester. Now, Lester was different. He had this Cuban-American charm that intrigued me. It wasn't love at first sight, but there was something about the way he made me laugh. We started talking, and before I knew it, we were inseparable. You're incredible, Claudia. I never thought I'd be able to find love in this lifetime, but you came around and changed my whole life. Honestly, Lester, you've made me believe in love again. This is no small task. You're amazing. Lester and I were getting closer and closer by the minute. I was so skeptical. I thought that some crap was going to hit the fan, and maybe I manifested it, but it surely did. You see, Lester came with a package deal named Wanda. his mother. Wanda had this uncanny ability to come out of thin air whenever Lester and I were getting serious. It's like she had a radar for our romantic milestones, birthdays, anniversaries, or just a quiet dinner at home. She'd appear like a genie ready to pass judgment. Now, Wanda was traditional, a real women belong in the kitchen kind of gal. And here comes me, Claudia, the unconventional wife. I didn't do much cooking. Cleaning wasn't a 24/7 gig for me. Sorry. And the real kicker, I had no interest in having kids. That last part, well, that was the deal breaker for Wanda. Picture this. We're at a restaurant, Lester, Wanda, and I. It was supposed to be a casual, get-to-know-each-other, better kind of night. Little did I know, it was the night Wanda would discover my non-traditional stance on motherhood. As we sat there, sipping on our drinks and scanning the menu, the conversation took a turn. Wanda innocently asked about our plans for the future, probably expecting to hear about a white picket fence and a nursery in the making. You two are just so adorable. I didn't think that my baby would find someone. He was always so grumpy. And don't even get me started on his flirting skills. Just horrible. Mom, really? I wonder how he even got a woman to be with him this long, but considering that you're a lacking woman yourself, I'm not too surprised that you two are getting along. Mom, stop it right now. What's that supposed to mean? I just mean that you don't do things that are what the kids say, wife material. Yeah, that's it. You don't know how to be a wife. Maybe according to your standards, but I reckon that I'd be a great wife. I did it once before and I can do it again. Oh yeah? And what do you provide? What can you do for my son? Well, I can be a loving companion. I can be his rock, his supporter, and his best friend. Ha! She thinks those are wifey qualities. I do, actually. What about cooking, cleaning, huh? Well, maybe his mother should have taught him how to do those things. I'm not anyone's babysitter. Okay, ladies, I think it's time to get some more refreshments. What do you say? Wanda and I kind of just mumbled in agreement, obviously feeling a bit bitter after this little tiff. She was getting on my nerves. I knew she came from a super traditional background, but geez, cut a girl some slack. I was still feeling a bit annoyed with Wanda's rudeness, so I decided to stir the pot a little and said, "It's a shame you're not super into the modern way of doing things, because you should know I'm not really interested in having kids." The silence that followed was thicker than the black bean soup on the table. Wanda's eyes got so huge and I could practically see the gears turning in her head. I knew at that moment there was no turning back. I had just dented the picture-perfect image she had for her son's future. Wanda, being the traditionalist, had probably envisioned family gatherings with grandkids running around, a big Thanksgiving table, and a bustling home filled with the pitter-patter of little feet. What she got instead was a future daughter-in-law who preferred a quiet dinner date over changing diapers. She started rambling. No children? What the hell is wrong with today's kids? Mama, please calm down. People are starting to stare. I don't care. This woman is trying to give me a heart attack. I don't know what the fuss is all about. I'm 36, for God's sakes. Did you think that I'd have all the time in the world to birth a team of footballers just so you could have grandkids? Lester, if you don't leave this woman right now, how dare you? Ladies, enough. Mom, I love you, but I love this woman. She's the love of my life. I know we're not doing things traditionally, but I promise you I'll be fine. Whatever. Don't come crawling to me when it doesn't work out. Now, where's that damn waiter? From that day forward, Wanda fully disapproved of our relationship. I mean, she wasn't exactly gung-ho about it before either, but this time, oh yeah, she was ready to put my head on a chopping block. It wasn't just about the kids, it was about the clash of traditions and expectations, and a clear lack of respect from both sides. Every time she dropped by unexpectedly or offered to teach me a proper recipe, it felt like a not-so-subtle reminder of annoyance with me, and I didn't take that kind of nice, nasty, passive-aggressive BS. So I would always snap right back at her. It was not a good relationship dynamic, to say the least. But love, stubborn as it is, kept Lester and me going. Despite the cultural differences and the dent in our relationship, we set out for our own version of happiness, one that didn't fit the traditional mold but felt uniquely ours, or so I thought. Within a year, Lester and I found ourselves exchanging vows. The wedding bells rang and I found myself blissfully married. But oh boy, did that send Wanda over the edge. She moaned and groaned about how it was all too soon and how it didn't make any sense. She was so close to not coming at all, but Lester convinced her, seeing as this was indeed the first time he was getting married. Looking back, I realize this might be the only thing we ever agreed on. The wedding brought out Wanda's traditionalist side in full force. She questioned our decision, shook her head constantly, and probably lost a few nights' sleep over the idea that her son was now a married man. Her son, who was supposed to follow the path she'd envisioned for him, the path of a traditional family with a traditional wife and traditional grandkids. Shortly after the wedding, Lester came to me with a big surprise. And no, it wasn't a sandwich at midnight, although that would have been delightful. It was an announcement that made my heart skip a beat. Imagine my surprise when Lester came up to me and said, "My mom is going to move in with us." He didn't even ask me. That was a huge red flag, but of course I didn't see it till it was too late. I couldn't wrap my head around it. Wanda wasn't frail or in need of constant care. She was vibrant and independent, maybe too much even. So why on earth did she need to live with us? It was like my cozy little life was being invaded by a hurricane named Wanda. Despite the weirdness of the situation, I agreed. Love makes you do strange things, right? So Wanda moved in, bringing her spicy cooking and a constant stream of advice. I thought I was signing up for a lifetime partnership with Lester, not a mother-in-law who'd give me tips on how to keep her son happy. It was a nightmare. I felt so anxious in my own home. Wanda's presence was scary and annoying. She had this knack for popping up in our personal spaces when we least expected it, offering relationship advice with the side of arroz con frijoles. It was like living in a romantic comedy written by someone who had never been married. Why was she always up in our business? When Lester and I would have our morning alone, she was there. When we would work out together, she was there. When we were having a romantic movie night, she was there. One day I got upset and I blurted out, "Isn't it enough that you're invading our personal space? Why must you be everywhere all the time?" Wanda and Lester were shocked that came out of my mouth. Honestly, I was shocked too. And then Wanda said something even more shocking. "If you have a problem with it, then you should talk to Lester because he was the one who wanted me here." I was utterly shocked when I found out the truth. I turned to Lester, giving him that look that said, "Is that true?" The poor guy seemed too embarrassed to offer any defense. Well, I got my confirmation. You see, these past couple of months, he had me believing that it was his mother who wanted to be there, how she practically begged him to move in with us. But his lack of response told me everything I needed to know. Without saying anything, I stormed upstairs, slammed the bedroom door shut, and locked it behind me. He was going to sleep on the couch that night, and I didn't care about his bad back. The next morning, the house was filled with awkwardness. I didn't like Wanda. Wanda didn't like me, and I didn't like Lester at that moment. It felt like some stupid high school game. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself questioning why I did this to myself. I started reconsidering everything, thinking that I jumped into this way too fast. The spark that was once there was now flickering, replaced by feelings of resentment and disappointment. A month crawled by, and there I was, engrossed in my work in the home office, when I heard some commotion outside. I thought that Wanda was just moving things around again, but I couldn't be more wrong. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw Wanda and Lester packing up some bags, moving things outside the house as if they had an escape plan in motion. Confused and concerned, I approached Lester, asking him what the heck was going on, but he seemed both embarrassed and irritated, avoiding eye contact and answering me altogether. Rude, frustrated with Lester's lack of response, I turned to Wanda directly, hoping to unravel the mystery, and to my surprise she smugly said, "I'm giving you what you wanted. I'm moving out." Initially, I'm not going to lie, you all, a wave of relief washed over me. Finally, my sick mother-in-law was leaving my house, meaning that I'd finally have my husband to myself. I thought that Lester had finally grown a pair and stood up to his mom, paving the way for us to repair our strained relationship. However, my relief was short-lived when Wanda dropped another bomb. "And I'm taking my son with me." The revelation hit me like a ton of bricks. What? Why? I was hurt. I was angry, and I was confused. Wanda went on to explain that they were both tired of my BS, and that they wanted some peace of mind. "I even told him to divorce you, seeing as he doesn't need you anymore. But he said he still loves you, which is unfortunate." "Is that true, Lester? Do you love me?" "Of course it's true." "Then why are you leaving me?" "It's because he doesn't want anything to do with you. I mean, look at you. What sort of wife are you? You can't cook, you can't clean. That's why he wanted me to move in the first place. He knew he would probably starve to death if I wasn't around." Ouch. I looked at Lester and he just looked away. I couldn't believe I let my desperation cloud my judgment. This man wanted to be with me, but he still had his mother around? Why? Then it clicked. Lester probably only wanted me for my money. You see, Lester was someone who struggled with financial stability. He could never hold a proper job down for long periods of time, and he never had enough money to pay for rent and bills. Now, this didn't bother me. I had always been the primary breadwinner. That was how our dynamic worked. Again, I'm not a traditional wife, so bringing home the bacon wasn't an issue for me. So why on earth was this man moving out with his mom if he didn't have the money? Did he get a better job and didn't tell me? It was all very confusing. "I just have one question. Who is going to be paying for your new lease and rent?" "Are you thick?" "My son, of course." "Oh, really?" "Well then, if that's the case, then fine. You two can go." Lester had the gall to be upset. "What? You're giving up on us just like that?" "Why not? You've made the decision to leave with your mom, so you two can go." "Claudia, let's talk about this. We weren't even being that serious about leaving." He started droning on and on about how he was testing my loyalty and how he'd never actually leave. I was confused, and so was Wanda. She started asking her son why he was backtracking now, and I didn't understand either, and I didn't want to understand. I just wanted those two bozos out of my place. Once Lester realized that my decision about them leaving was final, he angrily finished packing, and the two of them left without a second look. As the door closed behind them, I crumbled into tears, not out of sadness, but out of frustration with myself. I felt stupid for allowing a man back into my life when I clearly wasn't ready for it. The truth was, I had become desperate for love and affection. Could you blame me? I had been single for 10 long years by that point, and loneliness clearly took over my judgment. At that moment, I realized that I deserved better. I wouldn't let myself cry because of Lester and Wanda. No, I had to pick up the broken pieces and move forward. So that's what I did. That very same day, I got rid of anything that reminded me of those two clowns. I also saged my home because I wanted their bad energy to stay far away. It was a therapeutic process, cleansing my home of their presence. Once that was done, I focused on ending this embarrassing chapter of my life. I got to work drafting the divorce papers that would finally free me from my good-for-nothing husband. A month had passed without a word from Lester. But the time had come to serve him with the divorce papers. I wanted to see his face and his reaction when he knew I was being serious. So I got all dolled up, dressed nice and pretty, and headed out to their new home, which Wanda made sure to tell me about because it was in one of those rich people's neighborhoods. Pathetic. I wasn't just seeking closure, I was ready to embrace the beginning of a new self-empowered chapter. I rang the doorbell, and soon enough Lester came out of the house looking a bit stressed and worried, but once he saw me, I could see it clear as day, the look that cursed every stupid man that walked on the planet. Regret. "Wow, you look... I've come to give you the divorce papers." Lester looked shocked. "What? What are you talking about?" "I don't want to be with you, so I'm divorcing you." Hey, listen. You don't have to do that. I know things have been weird the past couple of months." "Weird, Lester? You left me so that you could be with your mom at your grown age? You should be ashamed of yourself." "I was trying to prove a point, okay?" "Well, I'm glad you got whatever you wanted out of this because we're done." "Claudia, you're being delusional." "Was what your mom said true about you wanting her to move in because you wanted what you couldn't have with me? A doting and submissive wife? One who is always cooking and cleaning? How could you ask me that? Did you only want me for my looks, my money? That's ridiculous. I could never. You know what? I don't even care. Have them signed ASAP. This shouldn't take too long because of the prenup, so please do the needful and I can be on my merry way." Lester started yapping about how he needed me and how he couldn't do this alone, which prompted me to ask, "How are you affording this place anyway?" And Lester went quiet, looking all sheepish and embarrassed like he normally would. After some moments of him struggling to find the words, Lester started spilling the beans. Because of our argument, the one where he lied to me, Lester got upset. He was mad because I wasn't speaking to him. So to teach me a lesson, he wanted to scare me by pretending to move out of the house with his mom, hoping that I'd fight for our relationship and start talking to him again. What an idiot. So when things didn't go according to plan, he quickly got himself a fancy place that he could barely afford. And when I looked at the place, it was decent. I'm not going to lie. Even when I pulled into the driveway, I felt intimidated. He started getting more and more panicky when he saw that I wasn't budging, saying that he didn't know how he was going to cover rent for the next month. I started laughing, and this pissed him off. He began begging and pleading for another chance. He said he couldn't survive without me, acknowledging how he messed up and how he learned his lesson. However, I had learned my lesson and wasn't about to fall for the same manipulative tactics. He kept trying to go back and forth with me, and I was forced to drop the papers at his feet and leave. One more month went by, and I was minding my own business when my phone rang. The caller ID showed Wanda's name, and I couldn't help but wonder what she could possibly want. I answered the call, only to be met with a tone of desperation and frustration in Wanda's voice. "Claudia, this fool, this moron, he's ruined everything. Please, you have to help me, please." "What's going on? Slow down." "Lester, he lied to me. He said he had the funds for this place, but we're only 2 months in and completely drained of cash. You have to help us." I couldn't help but laugh. Wanda didn't find this amusing, so she started calling me heartless and selfish, saying I was awful for not helping her mother-in-law and her husband. Damn, he didn't tell you that either? Tell me what? What's going on? "I dropped off the divorce papers a month ago. We're in the process of ending things, so I don't owe you anything." "What? He told me to call you and ask for help." He couldn't even face me himself. "Wanda, no offense, but you did a terrible job raising that man." Wanda started yelling at Lester in Spanish, and I couldn't get everything, but it wasn't rocket science to figure out that she was cursing that man out, probably regretting not getting her period when she was pregnant with him. I could hear him shouting back in the background, but she just wouldn't let him get a word in. He was in the wrong, and he needed to know it. I'm guessing Wanda forgot to hang up because the fight continued. I was considering getting some popcorn so that I could witness the chaos. It was crazy, you all. I heard dishes break and things being thrown. It sounded like a fight club on the other line. Finally, Wanda got back on the phone, panting. Claudia, I know you don't owe us anything, but please. Stop right there, Wanda. Since day one, you've been awful to me. You called me all sorts of names and made me feel bad, and now you want me to help you? I know you only have 2 brain cells to rub together, but please think about that for a second and ask yourself if you think that's ever going to happen. But you and your son are some of the stupidest people I've ever met. Do me a favor and pretend that this marriage never even happened. I don't want it following me. Claudia, wait. Oh, and good luck scrounging up money to pay for your rent. Then I hung up the phone. She tried calling me back, and when that wasn't working, she was texting. I blocked her. Revenge never felt so good, you all. I know she was punching the air and ripping her hair out. I was living peacefully in my house, enjoying my own company, and the people who made me suffer for the past couple of months were now panicking and were on the verge of being homeless. Funny how karma works, huh? Lester can't even be mad because he did this to himself. It was really such a shame, but I'm glad it's no longer my business. Good riddance.